I'm your host, TaSheena Braxton, and I am on a mission to disrupt the industry standard that fancy titles make leaders and teaching my clients how to become leaders and get their own seats at the table. Every week, I will explore a topic that impacts women of color. I will unpack the topic and provide learning so that you can feel equipped to step into leadership. I went from laid off to an entry-level job to a mid-level multiple six figures role where I wasn't the highest on the org chart, but I was able to sit in rooms with CEOs, CFOs, and CMOs without a fancy title. As a mom of 4, a wife, and the eldest daughter of 6, I know what it means to lead in every aspect of your life and to be able to translate that into the workplace. Welcome to the Leadership Beyond the Title podcast. So glad to have you here. Now let's get into it. Hey y'all, welcome back to the podcast. And in today's episode, I want to talk more about visibility and being seen, and how when you are looking to make a pivot or you are trying to do something different in your career, such as a promotion, working hard is not enough. So oftentimes we believe that if we work hard, that'll be enough. But I'm here to tell you today, it's not enough. As women of color, we have to get comfortable with being seen by the right people if we want to make any progress in our careers and in our leadership, quite frankly. And the secret currency to all of that lies in our relationships. So let's talk about why just being about your work isn't enough, how to build social capital or relationship capital, and the types of relationships you actually need. So let's dive in. Let's first talk about this thing about just doing good work. A lot of us have been taught that if we do good work, we will be rewarded. And we learn this in childhood. And even as I'm speaking, I'm thinking about even with our pets. So sometimes, our pet does something good, we reward them with a treat. The same thing happens when we were children. When we did something well, our parents rewarded us with a treat. We didn't have to amplify it. We didn't have to get on the rooftop and yell about it. We just did what we were supposed to do, and we got rewarded. It's also how we are rewarded with our money and finances. So if you do go to work and you clock in and you clock out and you get some work done, you get rewarded with money. The same goes for things like volunteering. We get rewarded for volunteering on something, or we do chores, we get rewarded with some money. So there's this cycle, or there's this just pattern in our system where if we do good work, we get rewarded. But where the reward stops is when it's time to get promoted, when it's time to pivot in your career. Women of color have believed that doing the good work and just doing it, you will be noticed, someone will see you, and you will get the promotion that you want. But the problem is we face so many systemic barriers, such as racism, sexism, and other type of bias that often prevents us from being recognized and rewarded at the same rate as our white or male counterparts. And so because we are facing these things so much more than others, our relationships have to be central to how we elevate in our careers. They have to matter. And this is not just for visibility, but it's also for access into the rooms that you need to be in, to different opportunities that may not be publicized yet, and to key decision makers. I remember when I was an administrative assistant, and of course, I was doing great work. People were getting their lunches on time. My boss was getting her schedule every day. I was getting work done that I was supposed to get done. And so to most people, everything was peachy keen. Like, things were getting done. Everything was getting worked out. But the problem that was happening was while things were getting done, there wasn't really room or visibility for me on the impact that I was having. And no one was really communicating that. Yes, people were getting what they need, but what's the impact of people getting what they need and not having to like wait or have to do it themselves? Like, what is the time that's saved? Things like that. And so I had to really rely on the relationships that I had in the office in order to amplify that for me. I remember there was this woman who had an office next to my cubicle in the workplace, in the work office. And I remember that I had built this like genuine relationship with her. Like, she wasn't necessarily part of my immediate team, but because she sat in close proximity to me, there was something that I just learned to like engage with her. And so over time, we would just have conversations about what was happening in the office. Her team sat at a like higher level, like my boss reported into her boss. So they kind of sat at a higher level. And she was able to give me all the tea on what was happening, what was coming down the pipeline, who liked who was in trouble with who, just everything, because we built this relationship. But this relationship wasn't built on gossip, because actually when I got my coaching certification, this was the person who was able to say, hey, did you know there is a coaching team that's being created right now as we speak? If you want to try to be one of the coaches, I'm going to connect you. I'll reach out to them and I'll just connect you via email. And boom, change my life. Literally change my life because I built this relationship. And so I want you to know that relationships matter so much. If you want to get access into rooms that you're not in, if you want to have a seat at the table, if you want your name to be talked about when you're not there, in a positive way, of course, you need to build these relationships, because the right relationships will advocate for you when you're not in the room, and they will amplify your work. When you do not have a strong network, you risk being trapped in a cycle of invisibility. And there's nothing more damaging than somebody who is not seen, who is invisible. I know sometimes we say things like, I don't care what they think. I'm doing good work. Like, I don't care. I don't need the spotlight. I hear that all the time. I'm working with a team right now, and there's a woman on this team who is one of those people that like, I don't need the spotlight. I don't need everything on me. But the moment something happens where they overlooked her or she was left out, she is hurt by it, and it really impacts her in her work that she's doing. And so I want you to know, all of us, human nature, we want to be seen. We want people to see us, to hear us, to trust us, to believe us, to invite us in. That is just human nature. We all want that. And so with the right network, you'll go from being invisible to a place where you have some level of opportunity. Okay. So let's talk about relationship capital. Okay. Because I think it's one of the things, like, we talk about different capital, social capital, all these type of things. And I may have said social capital at the beginning of this podcast, but what I really mean is the relationship capital that you need to have and why it even matters in the first place. Now, relationship capital is the tangible value that is created by trust-based relationships. So it is what you're building up over time. I know Brene Brown talks in one of her books about how there's this like trust jar that she uses, and she talks about this with her children. And every time they do something well, she puts like a marble in the jar to build up the trust, and you'll see how much the trust is building. I want you to think of relationship capital in the same way. The more trust, the more connections, the more belonging you feel, the more that you come together and collaborate, the more that jar fills up, like the marble jar that Brene Brown talks about. And relationship capital is not just about this transactional networking. So I know I've talked about this ad nauseum. You've heard other podcast episodes where I talk about this, where networking should not be transactional. And people have such a hard time with networking because it feels transactional, because there isn't an end goal, because it feels like there's no follow up. It's because it feels like there is not an ROI on what has happened. And so I want you to know that instead of transactionally networking, you should be building your relationship capital through shared values, through stories, through alignment, right? And so you have to look for those things in order to build the capital that you need. Let me tell you, especially when it comes to storytelling, we overlook the power of storytelling in our relationships so much. And really, the storytelling is about like sharing who you are, where you come from, what's important to you, who do you want to be? What are your values? What drives you to do the things that you do? Like, we don't talk about that enough in relationships. And it's interesting to me because I always say, there's a phrase that I always use is like date the C-suite, but I also want to say we need to date at every level. And the reason why we need to date at every level and we need to think about it in that sense is because when you are first having a date with someone, you probably have very high standards. There's things that you want. There's things that you accept and you won't accept. There's some boundaries that you have. And a lot of times we don't look at our relationship building in the workplace in the same way, but the principles remain the same. Like, we still have to have some type of alignment. We still have to be met equally in our values. Like, just working there alone is not enough. And it shouldn't be enough, because if you think just working somewhere is enough, over time, what happens is you find out something that is a surprise to you, where trust is broken and you're like, damn, I should have knew that. Dang, how did I not know that about her or him or whatever? And it's because we never took the time to build the relationship in the first place. With every team session that I work on, I always start off, what are the agreements we want to make collectively as a team? And it seems so trivial. People roll their eyes and I'm like, let's create our agreements, right? But the reason why you create agreements is so that when conflict arises, you know how to work and navigate through it, right? The same for relationships. When you are dealing with relationships, start at a level where you have some level of alignment on how you want to be in that relationship. That moves it from this transactional networking, this like give to get, or like, I got you, you got me. We boom, boom, boom. We're going to do this together. Oh, not even together. We're going to do this. You just give me what I need and I'm off and running, and I give you what you need. You're off and running, but we really don't talk to each other unless we need something. And we want to prevent that, especially when we go through the time period that we're going through now with a lot of layoffs and restructuring and hiring freezes and things like that. We really want to be mindful that we are not transactionally building relationships. Relationships will thrive when you connect first and then ask for what you need later. So connect, because you don't want to ask for something and that person has no alignment at all with what you're asking for, or that's not a value of theirs at all. And you are asking for something that is out of reach for them. So when you connect, when you get to know the person, when you date at that level, and I don't mean literally, I know some of you guys are rolling your eyes what I said a few moments ago about dating. I don't mean literally date or like go out on a date or, things like that, the intimate part of dating. What I mean is hold those principles the same, near and dear, so that you have some level of standards or foundation. You have a goal, you know where you're going. You also should share your personal narratives. Like I talked about this already with storytelling. Like, your narrative is important. Who you are, where you come from, what guides your behavior is so important, because it creates an emotional resonance. It brings people closer to you because now they're curious and they're like, I want to know more. Like, oh my God, tell me more. And it's interesting because I even think children are so curious and they're asked the questions that need to be asked because they want to know more. And it's not from a place of judgment. And I remember even when I was about between the ages of like 18 and 22, I used to ask people things all the time, especially from some of my queer friends, where I would ask them questions all the time, like, what is the process that you went through? Or how was it for you coming out? Or what, things like that. And it just gave me so much more appreciation for who they are and what they go through, that to this day, like, I have an emotional resonance and connection with them, with my queer friends, because, I understand them better, and I can remove the judgment. And so that's what you want to do. Like, when we're talking about bias and systems that, like, put us in a specific box as women of color, the more we can build the relationships and share the stories, even for the people who still are like, these people are like this and that and this, you're going to have somebody in your network, in your connection, that'll be like, wait, hold up. Actually, I know that person very well. I know her very well, and I know exactly how she is and who she is. And you got it all wrong, dude. Or you got it all wrong, girl. Like, however you want to talk, right? Whatever that looks like. But you want to have people who advocate for you at the end of the day and building the emotional resonance. It also is important because when you're going for a promotion and senior leaders are around the table and they're talking about different employees in their organization, it's really hard to back up someone that you don't know. That you don't know what they do, where they come from, what's important to them, what do they like, it's really, really hard. So you definitely want to create your own narrative, not allow someone to create that narrative for you, and really talk about who you are and what you've done. You also, in this relationships thrive when there's mutual trust through consistency and communication. And so if I am consistent with you, I'm consistently reaching out to you, I'm consistently offering support to you, I consistently am in close proximity to you, I start to build trust. If I consistently abide by my word, I build trust. When I'm communicating with you often, and not just often, but transparently and honestly, you build trust. And that's when the relationships thrive. Now, it's not all about positive communication, because there could be very negative communication. But if I am consistently sharing the negative side of things with you, if I'm being open and transparent with you, if I just keep it real with you, you will trust me even in the midst of negative communication. Okay. Now, relationship capital isn't built overnight. You don't just take a whole bag of marbles and put it into the jar. Over time, they get built and you put it in there one by one. So it will require your time. And I know as introverted women of color, our time is precious to us. It's very, very precious to us. And that's amazing. I love that for us, right? And we have to understand that it's not an overnight thing. I'm not going to be your best friend overnight. I'm not going to be your favorite coworker overnight. I'm not going to be your workplace bestie overnight. It takes time. You also have to be reliable and intentional. Okay. So none of this fake and phony stuff, none of this transactional stuff. Be reliable. Do what you say you're going to do. Mean what you say, and be intentional. Be intentional, not just reach out to me when you just got laid off and now you need some support. No, reach out to me even when we're still around. Reach out to me if I get laid off. Like, be there for me. Don't be my friend until I get laid off and now you don't even reach out to me to see how I'm doing, right? And that wouldn't happen anyway if we've built a relationship over time. Usually people stop reaching out to people after they're laid off because they had nothing in common other than they worked at the same workplace. Okay. So I digress with that. But being intentional with, your relationship and what you want out of it will cause a relationship to thrive and thrive well. So with that being said, let's talk about what I like to call the relationship triangle. And these are the 3 types of people that you need in your network. Okay. Now, this is the types of people. I'm not saying the number of people. Okay. And this is a relationship triangle that's going to help you identify who these people are. Right. And so if you have time, I want you to draw a triangle on a piece of paper, on your iPad, on the whiteboard of your laptop, whatever it is. I want you to write out a triangle. And then in one corner, I want you to put mentors, the second corner, sponsors, and the third corner, peers. Okay? Mentors, sponsors, peers. These are the three type of people that you need in connection with. You need to have a connection with for your relationship in networking. Okay. This is the relationship triangle: mentors, sponsors, and peers. Now, the mentors, these are going to be the people who are going to offer you guidance. They're going to give you insight. They're going to give you perspective. They're going to tell you how they did it. It is like, the mentor is the person that, and I usually use this analogy for coaching, but I use it here, is that the mentor is the person that gets on the bicycle and says, this is how you ride it. And they show you how they rode it. Okay. They're going to show you. They're going to be like, this is how you ride it. Now, they're going to take it one step further and they're going to say, okay, now you hop on and let me see if you could do it. Okay, let me give you some tips. Let me tell you how you should have did it or how you shouldn't do it. Or let me give you a best practice, things to watch out for, things like that. So you want to have mentors, the people who are going to offer guidance, insight, and perspective on your career, on your leadership, and what direction you should take. The second one is sponsors. These are the people that are going to use their influence to open doors, to get you a seat at the table, and to advocate for you in decision-making spaces. So when there's promotions that's ready to be filled, when there's a new job opportunity, when there is a project that you can be on, something that can amplify your work, these are the people that's going to make the decisions or use their influence in these spaces. Okay. Now, a sponsor, if we go with the bicycle analogy again, the sponsor is going to be the one that's going to get you a new bike. Okay. They're going to say, let me get you a new bicycle. Let me get you one that's a little bit more jazzed out. That's a little bit more. Maybe I might even get you an electric one because I'm going to make it easier for you. You're not going to have to do all that pedaling. I'm going to get you an electric bicycle, right? These are the people that you want. These are the sponsors. And then the third type of person is peers, your peers. Okay. They're going to provide collaboration opportunities. I can't tell you how many people in the coaching world come and want to collaborate with me and vice versa, because these are the people that are part of my networks. I've invested in these relationships, and being collaborative with other people doesn't bring competition. It actually amplifies your work, what you can do, right? It's a way to amplify yourself. So collaborate. They also help give you emotional support. So when I talk about my work friend, my workplace bestie, right? They're going to be the one that I get to go to and I say, girl, let me tell you what happened. And I don't know what I'm going to do. I remember, again, I'll go back to this situation that happened when I was going into coaching in my workplace, and I was getting in transition to a new manager, but the manager who stepped in prior to that was the ultimate manager, the head, and the new manager reported into the head, and the head had already okayed me to go into the coaching space. It was a rotation, so it was temporary position at first. They okayed it, but then here comes this new manager. And when I said she attacked me at every single level, this lady attacked me. I mean, she was going to HR. She felt because I was an administrative assistant, I didn't deserve to have that job. She didn't think I was qualified, that I had enough skills and expertise. Mind you, I was one of 2 people that walked in with a coaching certification. Okay. So I'm just going to put that out there. I'm just going to lay that out on the table. Right. So I had a lot of just skills and abilities. Right. Now, she was doing all of this in my back, and I was finding out she was doing this because there was a peer who was sitting in those rooms who found out and knew what was happening and gave me the emotional support I needed, was able to provide me with what I should do to help me. So they kind of filled all of these roles, honestly. However, as the peer, the emotional support was like chef's kiss, because I was ready to piece out of that whole entire organization because of this one bad apple. And so your peers can help you with this. And then they offer a shared experience. I have another workplace friend that started off as my workplace friend, but it's still my friend. Like, that's my girl, even outside of work now, even when I'm not working at the same organization anymore. But we now have a shared experience together and we are connected. And not just ourselves, but our daughters have a shared experience. Or both of our daughters have graduated. They're going off to college, and we just have that shared experience. We have that Bay Area experience. You feel me? You feel me? So all of that is so important, but we were able to connect because we learned about each other more. We told each other our stories, and there is something shared there that we can always run back to. So when you think about the type of people, relationships that you need, think about this relationship triangle. You need to have mentors, sponsors, and peers. And I hope you go out and you actually do this exercise and really write it down so you can get to know. Now, here's some action steps that you can take, even if you're an introvert or you feel invisible in the space, okay, in your workplace. The first action step I want you to do is to start small. I want you to invite a colleague to connect over something that you share, okay, a shared interest. I've said it on this podcast before, a shared interest, a way that I've connected with other people is I'm going to join your team. I'm going to join your team, your initiative. I want you to tell me all about it. Okay. So that's how I join. That's how I connect over shared interests. That's how people get to know me. And that's how I amplify my impact. So start small, invite a colleague to connect over a shared interest, or find a shared interest space. It could be an employee resource group. It could be just a team. I know there's like, Toastmasters teams, or, other type of, TED Talk teams, things like that. Find a colleague that you can connect with over a shared interest. Start there. Another action step is show up with curiosity, not just ambition. So a lot of times we go in like, okay, I'm going to connect with this person because I know this person knows this person and I can get them to talk to me, and, I can see if they can introduce us. And that's why I'm going to connect with them. Big pause, big X, stop, don't go any further. Do not pass go, do not collect $200 because you don't want to start off in a transactional mindset. You really want to show up with curiosity, not just ambition. You want to find out who this person is, because I always say, and I'm going to say this for the life, I'm going to say this, I'm going to keep saying it. Sometimes the person that you think isn't the most connected is the person that's most connected. And I saw this as an administrative assistant myself. I knew a lot of people. I came in contact with a lot of people. A lot of people knew me, and that's why I have such rich relationships now. But not everybody would come to me, because they would only come to me if they needed something done, but didn't know that I had the connection to get them where they needed to go. Okay. So I want you to really just be mindful that show up with curiosity and not ambition. The third thing is share your wins and lessons in ways that feel authentic. There's nothing more important than tooting your own freaking horn, okay? So make sure you're sharing your wins, your successes, what you've done, because that is important. That's how you amplify your impact. And share it while you're storytelling. Share it where you came from. Share it in those spaces, because that is super important, and that's going to help you get yourself out there. And then lastly, follow up and stay consistent. Relationships grow through different touch points and often consistent touch points. If you haven't heard, go back and listen to one of my podcast episodes. I think it's the one last week where I talk about the 222 method again. And I've talked about it sporadically throughout this podcast show, but I want you to go and think about the 222 method. 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 months. You follow up in 2 days, you follow up in 2 weeks, and then you follow up in 2 months. Okay. Continue those touch points, because that's important. If I meet you at somewhere and that's the only time we talk and we never talk again, out of sight, out of mind, I've forgotten about you. Okay. So I want you to go out there. I want you to know that The hidden currency of career growth is in your relationships. It's not just in doing good work. If this episode was meaning for you, if you connected and it resonated with you, connect with me on all social platforms. You can find that information in the show notes. And I hope to talk to you soon. Come back here next week. Bye. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Leadership Beyond the Title podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, hit like, follow, and leave a comment. Share with your friends, family members, and other women of color leaders. Inside my one-on-one leadership coaching program, I will help you become the leader that you want to be with work-life integration and peace. By tapping into networks, growing your visibility and confidence, you will go from untapped, unseen, and underrepresented to attracting opportunities to take your career and your life to the next level. I use an equity-centered lens in my approach so that you feel seen, safe, empowered, excited, and committed to attract, create, and land opportunities in an unconventional way. To work with me, join my email newsletter, or to learn more about me, click the links in the show notes. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to being your coach. See you next week.